The starport was quiet that evening. A pale orange sun was sinking below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty hangar. Ships of every shape and size were parked haphazardly, their engines quiet except for the occasional hum from life support systems. The humans and aliens who lived and worked on the edges of known space moved about with tired precision, fixing ships, checking cargo, and sharing brief words over comms. But in the middle of this ordinary evening, one small shop glowed warmly, a faint light spilling onto the cracked metal floor outside. Eli Mercer wiped his hands on a rag that had seen better days. The rag smelled of grease and burned metal, but it was part of his life, just like the old tools scattered across his workbench. Eli was a human mechanic, and the edge of known space was the perfect place for someone like him. No fancy starships from the core worlds, no rich nobles needing delicate repairs, just the everyday ships of traders, miners, and explorers. He liked it that way. Simple, honest work. No politics, no danger. Mostly. He leaned against the doorway of his shop, stretching his stiff shoulders. Outside, the air smelled faintly of ozone and dust, a combination he had come to recognize as home. He glanced at the ship he was finishing repairs on, a small freighter that had come in that morning with a busted hyperdrive. Eli had worked on hyperdrives before, but this one had been tricky, requiring him to improvise some of the circuits using old components. He had just tightened the last bolt when he heard the sound. It was soft at first, almost a whisper against the metal floor. Then the sound of boots, metallic, deliberate, yet oddly light, approached his shop. Eli frowned. Not many people walked around the starport at this hour. Most had finished their work and retreated to their cabins or the cantina. He straightened, wiping his hands again, and called out, "Who's there?" The sound stopped for a moment. Then a voice, smooth and melodic, answered, "I need help. Urgent." Eli blinked. It was a human voice, but not exactly human. There was something musical about it, a rhythm that made the words feel more like a song than a request. He stepped outside, just enough to see the source. She was unlike any being he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, like polished silver under the dim lights of the starport. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, and held a depth that seemed to look right through him. Her hair flowed behind her in streaks that caught the light like liquid metal. She wore a suit that fit tightly but moved like it was alive, shifting with her as she walked. Eli swallowed, unsure whether he should be impressed or nervous. What can I do for you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "My ship," she said, her accent unfamiliar but soft. "It is broken. Need fixed, fast." Eli nodded slowly. "Right. Come inside. I can take a look. Hyperdrive, engines, weapons, just about anything you throw at me." He moved back to let her in. She stepped into his shop, her movements graceful, almost floating. The air seemed to hum around her. Eli's shop was small but functional. Tools lined the walls, a workbench covered in half-finished repairs dominated the center, and small containers held all the spare parts he could find. He gestured toward her ship. "Show me what's wrong." The alien woman nodded, and together they walked to her craft. It was sleek and unlike anything Eli had seen before. The metal was dark, reflective, and seemed almost alive in the way it curved and twisted. He ran his hands over the hull, noting the faint warmth emanating from it. "This is something," Eli muttered. "Not like the usual miners' ships. Looks like a core world design. Or maybe experimental." She tilted her head. "Not core. Far. Edge." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Well, you picked a good place to stop. I fix what others can't." The alien opened a panel on the side of the ship. Inside, Eli saw circuits that glowed faintly, pulsing with energy as if the ship had a heartbeat. He blinked. Some of the components were familiar, but most were entirely alien. "Okay," he said slowly. "This is new. Really new. But nothing I can't handle. Might take a while, though." She nodded. "Time. Important." Eli shrugged. "I'll do my best." He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. As he worked, he couldn't help but study her. The way she moved, the way her fingers brushed over the controls, the way she spoke, even her silence had a presence. There was a confidence in her that Eli had never seen in any human trader or miner. He didn't know why, but he felt a strange respect for her. Hours passed. Eli worked carefully, dismantling panels, rerouting energy conduits, and improvising parts with the materials he had on hand. The alien woman watched quietly, occasionally pointing out things he had missed, or giving him hints about her ship's systems. Eli appreciated the help, but he still didn't understand the technology fully. He relied on his instincts and human ingenuity to solve problems the ship presented. "Human, clever," she said finally, her eyes bright. Eli laughed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You'd be surprised what humans can do when you give us a problem. We might not have your fancy tech, but we make up for it with, well, brains and guts." She smiled faintly, a gesture that seemed almost shy. "Brains and guts. Good." Eli chuckled. "I like that. But enough small talk. Let's see if we can get your ship running." He worked through the night, his hands steady despite the complexity of the alien systems. Piece by piece, he understood enough to make adjustments. He improvised new circuits, strengthened the hull where it had weakened, and tuned the engines in ways that surprised even him. By the time the first pale light of dawn touched the starport, the ship was humming steadily, its glow softer but alive, as if satisfied with his work. The alien woman stepped back and examined her ship. Her eyes seemed to shine with appreciation. Eli leaned against the workbench, exhausted but proud. She stepped closer. You not know who I am?" Eli shook his head. "Nope. And honestly, doesn't matter. You came here for help. I gave it. That's all I need to know." Her lips curved into a small, almost imperceptible smile. There was a weight to her presence, something Eli could sense but didn't understand. She didn't speak for a while, simply observing him, as if deciding whether he was trustworthy. Finally, she nodded. "Trust earned." Eli grinned. "Exactly. That's how we humans do it." End quote. For a moment, the shop was silent except for the faint hum of the ship. Then, she spoke, her voice softer now, almost a whisper. "You, clever, brave." Eli laughed again, shaking his head. "Just a mechanic, nothing special." She tilted her head, studying him. Eli raised an eyebrow. "Special, huh?" As she prepared to leave, Eli couldn't help but feel that something had changed. This ship, this alien woman, and the night they had spent together, it felt like the beginning of something larger. He didn't know it yet. But the universe had noticed him, and it had plans he couldn't even imagine. The alien woman gave a small nod, stepping into her ship. "Farewell, human. Good luck out there," Eli called. "And don't blow anything up before your next stop." She laughed softly, a sound like wind over metal. Then the ship lifted smoothly, gliding over the starport floor and into the sky. Eli watched it go, feeling a strange mix of awe and curiosity. He returned to his workbench, rubbing his eyes and shaking his head. "Just another day in the shop," he muttered. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. Outside, the first traders began to stir, the sun rising higher, but Eli remained still, staring at the empty spot where her ship had been. Something about her lingered in the air, like a memory or a promise. And for the first time in a long while, he felt that ordinary humans like him might be capable of extraordinary things. The morning sun bathed the starport in a warm, golden light, reflecting off the metal surfaces of ships and hangars. Eli Mercer was already awake, though he hadn't slept much. Last night's work on the alien ship had left him exhausted, yet he felt a strange energy coursing through him. Something about the visitor had stirred a curiosity he couldn't shake. He was leaning over his workbench, cleaning tools and reviewing notes from the night before, when a faint signal pinged on his compad. It was the ship, the one he had just repaired. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the same shimmering silver figure he had helped the night before. Her eyes, always calm and intelligent, seemed to pierce through the small screen. "Eli Mercer," she said, her voice steady. "I require further assistance." Eli blinked. "Further assistance? I thought I fixed everything. The engines are fine, the circuits stable, and the hull reinforced." She tilted her head, her hair catching the light like flowing metal. "Yes, but other systems. Delicate, sensitive, require adjustment." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Other systems? Huh? Well, I guess it's my lucky day." "Come," she said simply. "Your skill needed." Eli hesitated. He wasn't used to traveling with alien royalty, or at least, he thought she was royalty. He didn't know much about her yet. She had not told him her true status, only that her ship was advanced and fragile. But curiosity, and that human trait of wanting to solve problems, pushed him forward. By mid-morning, Eli had loaded his tools into a small cargo shuttle. The alien woman waited for him near her ship, standing tall and graceful as always. She didn't smile, yet her presence had a calm authority. Eli tried to match her seriousness but found himself chuckling nervously. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked. She tilted her head. "Adventure. Yes. Important." Eli didn't ask questions. He climbed into her ship, marveling again at the interior. The walls were lined with glowing panels that shifted colors, responding to his presence. The controls were touch-sensitive, flowing under his fingers like liquid glass. It was unlike any human ship he had ever repaired. "All right," Eli muttered. "Let's see what makes you tick." They traveled to a secluded asteroid field near the edge of explored space. The place was quiet, almost unnervingly so. Massive rocks drifted lazily, casting long shadows. Eli felt a strange sense of anticipation. He had no idea why they were here, but he trusted the alien woman's judgment. She guided him to the engine room, a space even more advanced than the cockpit. The heart of the ship pulsed with energy, flowing through conduits that glowed with shifting colors. Eli's instincts kicked in. He knew that, despite its alien design, the ship's systems had principles he could understand. Energy, flow, pressure, mechanical balance. "Start here," she instructed, pointing to a panel etched with symbols that shifted like they were alive. "Flow. Unstable. Can adjust?" Eli studied the panel. The symbols were alien, but he could trace the lines connecting them. He placed his hands on the controls, using his knowledge of physics and mechanics. Slowly, carefully, he adjusted the energy flows, watching as the glow stabilized. "It is stable?" he asked. She nodded. "Better. Work? Human? Good." Eli smiled, a small surge of pride filling him. "Glad my instincts still work." For hours, he moved through the ship, adjusting delicate systems, reinforcing circuits, and tuning engines that seemed almost alive. She watched silently, occasionally offering a tip or a correction, but mostly letting him work. Eli felt a strange respect growing for her. She wasn't just a visitor. She was knowledgeable, patient, and intelligent in ways humans rarely encountered. During a break, Eli leaned against a console, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You know, Most people would have hired a team of engineers from the core worlds to do this. I'm just one guy with tools and luck. She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. Human. Adaptable. Not rely. Only tools. Think. Solve problems. Impressive. Eli laughed. Impressive, huh? I guess humans have that in common. We don't give up easily. We find a way, even when it seems impossible. Her expression softened slightly, almost like a smile. Yes. Way. Always. As the day passed, Eli began to notice something strange. The ship responded to him in subtle ways. Panels shifted, colors changed, and lights pulsed when he approached. It was as if the ship recognized his touch, his problem-solving, and his presence. He had never experienced anything like it. Ship. Alive? He asked, cautiously. She nodded. Not alive. Like humans. But aware. Responds. To touch. To mind. To heart. Eli frowned. To heart? She smiled faintly, a small gesture that made him uneasy and fascinated at the same time. Human. Strong. Creative. Brave. Heart. Important. Eli shook his head. I'm just a mechanic. Mechanic. More than human. Think. Act. Survive. He paused, thinking about her words. I suppose humans have always survived, haven't we? Against odds, disasters, and enemies. Maybe that's why you trust me. She nodded once, sharply. Yes. Trust. Fragile. Earned. Only once. Eli felt a rush of pride mixed with uncertainty. He didn't know why she trusted him, but he knew he had to live up to it. Their work continued into the late afternoon. Eli moved with precision, his hands steady despite the complexity of the ship's systems. He had repaired many ships in his life, but this was unlike anything he had ever done. Every adjustment required thought, intuition, and sometimes pure trial and error. During a quiet moment, he asked, You travel alone? Most people I don't even know what you are. Most people your kind. Have guards, assistants, maybe fleets. She looked away, her gaze distant. Alone. Necessary. Others. Cannot understand. Delicate systems. Personal. Eli nodded slowly. I get that. Sometimes it's better to handle things yourself. You don't have to explain it to anyone. 1. She turned her eyes back to him, their glow soft but intense. Human. Understand. Unusual. You constructed. We would not well. We look to bead. We would not well. We would experience see. Their glow soft. We would not well. We would experience see. He smiled awkwardly. I guess humans can surprise people sometimes. As the sun dipped below the asteroid horizon, casting long shadows across the ship, Eli finished the final adjustments. The engines hummed in perfect harmony. The panels glowed evenly, and the energy flowed smoothly through the ship's veins. He leaned back, exhausted, but satisfied. It's perfect, he said, almost in disbelief. She stepped closer, her silver markings shimmering in the dim light. Yes. Work. Excellent. Skill. Rare. Eli shrugged. I just do my best. She studied him, her expression unreadable. Human. Humble. Rare, too. Eli laughed softly. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the ship's quiet hum filling the room. Then, she spoke, her voice lower now, almost a whisper. Eli Mercer. You. Important. He frowned. Important? Me? I'm just a mechanic. Why would I be important to anyone like you? She tilted her head, her gaze piercing. Not like anyone. You. Different. Human. Different. Can. Make. Change. Eli swallowed. He had repaired ships, solved problems, and even saved a few traders from danger. But never had he felt like he could influence something so large, so unknown. Her words were heavy with meaning, though he didn't yet understand their full weight. You make it sound like I'm some kind of hero, he said with a nervous chuckle. I'm really not. You, human, hero, maybe not know yet. But can be. Eli looked around the ship, thinking about the hours he had spent working, the strange systems he had adjusted, and the alien intelligence that seemed to be alive within the craft. Somehow, he realized that her words weren't exaggeration. Humans, like him, had a way of finding solutions, thinking creatively, and surviving against odds. Perhaps he was already part of something much larger than he realized. She paused, her eyes glowing faintly. Rest. Soon. More work. Ahead. Danger. Come. Eli nodded, trying to hide his unease. Danger? He didn't know what she meant, but something about her calm warning sent a shiver through him. Yet, deep down, he felt ready. Humans face challenges every day, and he had never backed down from a problem. As the asteroid shadows lengthened and the first stars appeared in the sky outside, Eli worked a little longer, double-checking every adjustment, every conduit, every control. By the time he finally leaned back and allowed himself a deep breath, he knew two things. The ship was perfect, and the alien woman had secrets he could not yet imagine. But more importantly, he knew that humans, even a single mechanic on the edge of known space, could make a difference in a universe far larger than himself. The asteroid field outside the ship was quiet. Almost too quiet. Eli Mercer had finished his work on the alien ship. And for a few moments, he allowed himself to relax. The ship's engines hummed softly, a comforting, alive rhythm. Queen Lyra, the alien woman he had been helping, stood near the control panel, her arms folded and her gaze on the distant horizon. Do you ever just rest? Eli asked, leaning against the wall. I mean, we humans usually take a break when things are quiet. Lyra tilted her head, considering. Rest. Yes. But quiet. Unusual. Must. Alert. Eli nodded slowly. Something about the way she said it made him uneasy. Humans were used to danger. Sure. But she seemed to sense a threat even before it arrived. He glanced at the sensors. The asteroid field was empty, just drifting rocks and the faint glimmer of distant stars. I don't see anything, though. Maybe you're just extra careful. Well, extra careful, not enough, she said softly. Eli frowned. What do you mean? Before she could answer, the ship's alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the walls, casting jagged shadows over the panels. Eli's stomach dropped. Alarms were rarely a joke. Scan results? He asked, moving quickly to the console. Lyra's fingers flew across her ship's controls. 3. Craft. Approaching. Fast. Not friendly. Eli's eyes widened. Not friendly? Care to elaborate? They want you and me, she said simply. Eli froze. Want me? Why would anyone want me? Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she gestured toward the sensors again. On the screen, 3 small but heavily armed ships were moving through the asteroid field toward them. They were sleek, black, and menacing, equipped with visible weaponry. Eli felt a familiar fear rising, but pushed it down. Fear was one thing, panic another, and humans had a way of turning panic into action. Okay, Eli said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. First rule of surviving attackers: don't panic. Second rule: Improvise. Let's see what we can do with what we have. Lyra's eyes studied him, a flicker of surprise passing through her usually calm expression. Human, calm, good. Improvise. Important. Eli grinned. That's us humans in a nutshell. We adapt. Now let's adapt to these guys before they adapt to us. He moved quickly through the ship, grabbing tools and loose parts. He had an idea. Humans might not have had advanced alien technology like Lyra, but they had creativity. And creativity could sometimes be more dangerous than the most advanced weapon. The first enemy ship fired. Bright energy beams streaked through the asteroid field, striking rocks and sending chunks flying. Eli ducked instinctively. Okay. Yep. They're fast. They want us bad. Lyra adjusted the ship's shields. Not enough. Must. Help. Don't worry. I got this. Eli said, moving toward the engine room. He began modifying some of the conduits he had worked on earlier. By redirecting small bursts of energy, he hoped to create a kind of temporary EMP pulse, enough to disrupt the attackers' targeting systems without harming them permanently. Lyra watched, her eyes wide. Human. Risky. Sometimes, risk is the only way to survive, Eli replied. He flipped switches, rerouted circuits, and adjusted power flows. Sparks flew, and the hum of the ship's engines shifted, responding to his changes. He felt a thrill as he realized the ship seemed to understand him, its systems adapting to his improvisation. The enemy ships closed in, firing again. This time, the energy beams struck the rocks that Eli had manipulated earlier. Explosions sent debris flying, creating a chaotic obstacle course. Eli's plan worked better than he expected. The attackers had to dodge the debris, their targeting disrupted by the sudden energy pulses from his improvised systems. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. Human. Clever. Adapt. Fast. Eli shrugged, grinning despite the tension. You have to be fast when someone's trying to blow you up. John. The attackers weren't giving up. Their ships moved with precision, circling around the asteroid field, attempting to trap them. Eli knew they couldn't fight head-on. They were outgunned. But humans had a way of thinking outside the box. He grabbed a loose panel and connected it to the ship's main energy conduit. All right. Here comes a trick I learned the hard way. Distraction. He activated the panel. A burst of energy shot out, creating a temporary holographic decoy of Lyra's ship. The decoy reflected their own energy beams, making the enemy pilots believe they were hitting the real ship. Eli held his breath as the attackers focused on the decoy, giving them precious seconds to maneuver through the asteroid maze. Lyra's voice broke through the tense hum of the ship. Human. Brilliant. Eli laughed nervously. I do what I can. One of the enemy ships finally realized the trick, turning toward the real ship with a hiss of anger. Eli moved fast, adjusting the shields to create a temporary overload. The ship shivered as power surged through the systems, and the attackers' weapons short-circuited for a moment. It wasn't much, but it was enough for them to slip past and reach open space. Eli exhaled, feeling a rush of relief. Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing softly. Human, courage, remarkable, quick, think, survive. Eli smiled, brushing dust from his shirt. Courage, maybe, but a lot of luck too. And humans, well, we always try to survive. They drifted silently for a few minutes, catching their breath. Eli's mind was still racing. He had never felt more alive. The adrenaline, the improvisation, the challenge. It was everything humans thrived on. And apparently, it had impressed Lyra. But the danger was far from over. Eli could sense it, even without the alarms. Something about the attackers didn't feel random. They weren't just bounty hunters, they had a purpose. A reason to be here. And it likely involved Lyra. "Who are they?" he asked finally. Lyra's expression darkened. "Mercenaries. Skilled. From distant sectors. Sent. Find. Me. Trouble. Follow." Eli frowned. "Follow you? Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she adjusted the controls, guiding the ship into a hidden corridor of the asteroid field. "Important. Secret. Must. Hide." Eli nodded. Humans were used to secrecy too. He stayed alert, scanning the surroundings, checking every sensor and readout. His hands hovered over the controls, ready for anything. Hours passed. The asteroid field provided cover, and Eli's quick thinking kept them hidden from the attackers. But as night fell, he realized something. The attackers weren't giving up. They were patient, waiting for a mistake. Humans were resourceful, but even the most clever mechanic couldn't outthink someone forever. Lyra studied him, her eyes calm despite the danger. Human, different, brave, clever, can, handle, more. Eli chuckled despite the tension. "Thanks. I guess. I just do what needs to be done." She tilted her head. "Yes. But humans, unexpected, can survive. Impossible." He smiled faintly, feeling a sense of pride. Humans had always survived, against odds, disasters, and enemies. And here he was, proving it again. Suddenly, the ship's sensors detected movement, multiple small craft approaching from another direction. Eli's stomach dropped. "They're flanking us," he said. "Looks like they've figured out our hiding spot." Lyra's fingers danced across the controls. Eli moved fast, thinking creatively. He grabbed spare panels and wires, rigging improvised shields and decoys. Every move was instinctive, every adjustment precise. He had no fancy weapons, but he had human ingenuity. And sometimes, that was more dangerous than any gun. The attackers arrived. Energy beams shot through the asteroid corridor, striking rocks and creating explosions. Eli's shields absorbed the worst, while his decoys and distractions confused the enemy targeting systems. It was a chaotic dance of light and metal. But humans thrived on chaos. He adjusted, rerouted, and improvised, using every ounce of skill he had. Lyra's voice came over the comm. "Human. Genius. Think. Survive. Best." Eli grinned, despite the danger. "Told you humans have a way of surviving." By the time the attackers realized they were outmaneuvered, Eli and Lyra had already slipped into open space. The enemy ships hesitated, confused by the unexpected tricks, and eventually retreated, disappearing into the distance. Eli collapsed into a seat, exhausted but exhilarated. "Well, that was fun," he said, his voice trembling slightly from adrenaline. Lyra studied him, her expression softer now. Human, more than expected, brave, clever, important. Eli shook his head. "I'm just a mechanic." "Mechanic, yes. But human, special, can change, more than ships." Eli looked out at the stars, the vast expanse of space stretching endlessly before him. He realized she was right. Humans had a way of surviving, adapting, and making a difference even when faced with the unknown. And somehow, he knew that this was only the beginning. The universe was large, dangerous, and full of challenges, but humans, like him, could rise to meet them. And for the first time, Eli felt that ordinary humans could leave extraordinary marks on the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a glittering blanket of light in the vast emptiness of space. Eli Mercer sat quietly in the cockpit of the alien ship, still feeling the adrenaline of the earlier encounter with the mercenaries. His hands were smeared with grease and energy residue from the systems he had improvised. But he was alive, and more than that, he had survived by relying on human ingenuity. Lyra, as calm and poised as ever, floated near the control panels. The glow of her silver markings reflected off the smooth surfaces of the ship, making her appear almost ethereal. For hours, they had navigated through asteroid fields, avoided detection, and repaired delicate systems while under the constant threat of pursuit. But now, in the quiet of open space, Eli sensed that something significant was about to happen. "You've been quiet," Lyra said softly, her voice like the hum of a gentle engine. Eli shrugged. "Just thinking. About what happened. About those ships. I mean, who sends mercenaries after someone like you?" Lyra's gaze remained steady. "Not someone. Many. My enemies." Eli frowned. "Enemies? Why? Who are you really? You've been so careful, so secretive. I don't even know who I'm helping." Lyra paused, studying him as if deciding how much to reveal. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she let a small smile appear, one that was almost human in its subtlety. "Eli Mercer, time to... Truth. You deserve... No." Eli leaned forward, curiosity mixed with unease. "All right, I'm listening." She took a deep breath, as if drawing courage from the very energy around her. "I am Lyra, Queen of Xylan Dominion. My people, many systems, many worlds." Eli froze. His mouth went dry. "Queen? You're a queen? You mean royalty? You're ruling all that?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes. Born. Rule. Responsible. Many. Duty. Heavy. Travel. Necessary. Hide. Sometimes." Eli sank back in his seat, trying to process the revelation. The alien woman he had spent hours with, teaching him about her ship, guiding him through complex systems, was a queen, a ruler of entire worlds. And he, a simple mechanic from a dusty starport, on the edge of known space, had been trusted to help her without hesitation. You trusted me? I'm just a mechanic," he said, still in disbelief. Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "Yes, you, human, clever, brave, think, survive, important, many, cannot understand. What humans can do." Eli felt a swell of pride. Humans were often underestimated by other species, thought to be primitive or weak. Yet here he was, helping a queen navigate her own ship and survive attacks that even advanced fleets might struggle against. "You didn't tell me. Because," he asked. "Because many would fear you or harm you if known. Trust, earned, must remain, tested." Eli nodded slowly. "Well, I guess I passed your test." "Huh?" She tilted her head. "Yes, human, passed, trust, granted, important, now more than before." Eli leaned back, rubbing his forehead. "All right, so now I know you're a queen. What does that mean? Are those mercenaries working for someone trying to take over your empire?" Lyra's gaze darkened. "Yes. Factions. Rivalries. Seek. Power. Some do not want Xylan Dominion. Led. Justly. I must protect my people. You, human, can help." Eli blinked. "Me? How can I help? I'm not exactly trained for interstellar politics or royal protection. Lyra floated closer, her silver markings shimmering in the dim light. You, human, special, can think, act, adapt, survive. Others, rigid, humans, unpredictable, powerful, in ways many underestimate. Eli smiled faintly, a mixture of nervousness and pride. I guess humans do have a way of surprising people. Lyra nodded. Yes. Surprise. Often. Advantage. Now, I need your help. Again. Not just ship, but strategy, plan, survive, empire. Eli swallowed. This was more than he had ever imagined. From fixing hyperdrives to rerouting alien energy conduits, he had faced challenges before. But helping a queen protect her empire? That was on an entirely different level. Yet, he felt ready. Humans thrived on challenges, and he had never backed down from one. All right, he said finally, straightening in his seat. You've got my help. Whatever it takes. Lyra's expression softened, and she placed a hand near the console, almost in a gesture of gratitude. Human, courage, rare, promise, help, change. Eli felt a surge of determination. I don't need to be royal to make a difference. Humans have survived wars, disasters, and impossible odds before. I'll do my part. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. Yes, human. Understand. Why? Important. Others. Doubt. Humans. But humans can act, survive, change, universe. Eli chuckled. You make it sound like humans are superheroes. Lyra tilted her head, her expression serious. Not superheroes. Humans. Adaptable. Problem. Solve. Brave. Survive. This. Rare. Precious. For a moment, the two of them were silent, the ship humming softly around them. Eli's mind raced with possibilities. They had survived attacks before, but now he realized the stakes were higher. The mercenaries were not the only threat. Rival factions, political enemies, and perhaps even larger dangers awaited. And he was now part of this larger story, a story that could determine the future of an entire empire. You're not scared? He asked finally, curiosity and admiration mixing in his voice. Lyra's gaze was steady. Scared, yes, but fear, cannot, control, action, must, protect, people, survive, decisions. Eli nodded slowly. Humans understood fear. They had faced it countless times, but they also knew how to act despite it. Yeah, we humans do the same thing. Fear is normal. Letting it stop you is not. Lyra studied him, her expression softening. Human, understand. Why? I need you. Clever, brave, heart, important. Eli smiled, feeling a strange connection. Despite the vast differences between their species, they shared a common understanding. The courage to act when others hesitated. The ingenuity to solve problems when no solution seemed possible. And the willingness to face danger for the greater good. As the hours passed, Lyra explained more about her empire, the Xylan Dominion, a collection of planets and systems united under her rule, facing internal and external threats alike. Rival factions sought to destabilize her reign. Mercenaries were employed to sabotage her efforts, and enemies lurked in unexpected places. Yet despite the danger, Eli saw a strength in her, a determination to protect her people no matter the cost. You're really impressive, he said finally. Not just your ship or your tech, but you. The way you carry all of this. Responsibility. Lyra's eyes softened again. Human. See. Duty. Heavy. Alone. Many. Fail. Burden. Heavy. But. Survive. Act. Justice. Right. Eli nodded. Humans get that too. Responsibility. Choice. Action. We might be small in the universe, but we find ways to survive and make a difference. A small silence followed, the hum of the ship filling the space between them. Then Lyra spoke, her voice quiet but firm. Eli Mercer, you, not ordinary, human, special, can survive, help, change, many. Eli felt a surge of pride and purpose. He was just a mechanic, from a small starport at the edge of known space. Yet, here he was, trusted by a queen, capable of influencing the fate of an empire. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but he welcomed it. Humans had always risen to challenges, and this was no different. All right, he said finally, determination in his voice. What's the plan? How do we make sure your empire stays safe? Lyra smiled faintly, a rare gesture of warmth. Plan, simple, complex. First, survive, enemies, now. Then, strategy, prepare, counter, rival factions. You, human, help, crucial. Eli nodded. Then let's get started. Humans don't back down from impossible odds, and I'm not about to start now. Lyra's eyes glowed softly, and she placed a hand near his shoulder, a gesture of trust and partnership. Yes, human, together, change, universe. Eli felt a strange sense of pride. Humans, with their courage, creativity, and determination, could make a difference even in a galaxy filled with powerful empires and advanced technologies. And he, Eli Mercer, would be at the center of it all. As the ship glided silently through the stars, Eli realized one thing. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of challenges. But humans, no matter how small, could rise to meet them. And now, with Queen Lyra by his side, he was ready for whatever came next. The Xylan Dominion's star systems stretched endlessly, a tapestry of worlds, moons, and asteroid belts. But all of it was under threat. Rivals had grown bold, emboldened by the belief that Queen Lyra's influence could be challenged. Eli Mercer, human mechanic turned unlikely hero, sat in the cockpit of her ship, staring at the strategic map glowing on the console. Every star, every fleet movement, every weak point had been carefully marked. Lyra floated beside him, calm and composed, her silver markings shimmering softly in the dim light. Eli Mercer, ready? She asked. Eli rubbed his hands together, trying to shake off the fatigue from days of constant repairs, evasions, and improvisation. As ready as a human mechanic can be for galactic warfare, he said with a wry smile. Let's save some worlds. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Yes. Worlds. Lives. Empire. Survive. The enemy forces had amassed near the edge of a critical star system. Their fleets were vast, equipped with advanced weaponry. But humans had something they didn't: creativity, unpredictability, and courage. Eli had spent days studying the enemy's patterns, the movement of their ships, and the timing of their attacks. With Lyra's guidance, he had devised a plan that relied not on brute force, but on human ingenuity. You understand the stakes? Lyra asked, her voice steady. Eli nodded. If we fail, your empire suffers. But if we succeed, well, humans get a story to tell. He paused. Or maybe Just a quiet hero moment. Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. Human, humor, welcome. They approached the enemy fleet cautiously. Eli's eyes scanned the readings. There were too many ships to fight head-on. Traditional combat would be suicide. But humans thrived on solving impossible problems, and Eli had a solution. Lyra, he said, pointing at the display, we can't outgun them. But we can outsmart them. I've rigged the ship's systems to create decoys and energy surges. If we time it right, we can disrupt their formation and strike at their command ships directly. Lyra nodded. Yes, human, plan, risky, clever, we try. Eli's hands flew over the controls, activating circuits and channels he had modified over the past few days. Panels lit up, energy flowing unpredictably. The ship pulsed like a heartbeat, alive and responsive. He could feel it reacting to his commands, adjusting to his improvisations. Ready for Phase 1? He asked. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. Yes, begin. Suddenly, the decoys activated. Holographic copies of Lyra's ship appeared throughout the enemy formation, flashing and moving unpredictably. Energy pulses shot out from the ship, causing interference in the enemy targeting systems. For a moment, chaos reigned. Ships fired at illusions, wasting energy and leaving gaps in their formation. Phase 1, complete, Eli muttered. Now for the tricky part. Lyra's gaze was intense. Phase 2. Human. Your turn. Eli grinned. Time to improvise. He moved to the engine panel, rerouting energy through conduits he had reinforced earlier. The ship shuddered slightly as bursts of power surged outward. Explosions erupted in the enemy fleet as energy feedback hit critical points, disabling several warships instantly. Lyra's lips curved into a rare smile. Eli's heart raced. The enemy was larger, stronger, and more numerous. But their rigid tactics couldn't keep up with human creativity. Using the asteroid field nearby, Eli guided the ship through narrow passages, causing enemy ships to collide with asteroids or each other. Every maneuver was precise, calculated, and entirely improvised. You're reckless, Lyra exclaimed, though her tone carried admiration. Not reckless, Eli replied, grinning. Creative. That's humans for you. Hours passed, the battle raging across the star system. Eli worked tirelessly, adjusting shields, rerouting energy, and improvising decoys. Lyra coordinated the remaining loyal fleets, striking at key enemy command centers. The enemy, though powerful, struggled to adapt to human unpredictability and Lyra's strategic guidance. Eli Mercer. You saved many, Lyra said finally, her voice calm but full of awe. Eli wiped sweat from his forehead. Saved. Some. The rest. Still up to you, Your Majesty. Lyra's eyes softened. Not only me. Human. Part. Crucial. Creativity. Courage. Action. Matter. More than power. He nodded slowly. Humans had always faced overwhelming odds, using cleverness, courage, and adaptability to survive. He realized that the universe, with all its advanced technologies and alien races, often underestimated the most unpredictable element: the human mind. The final phase of the plan began. Eli guided Lyra's ship through a complex series of maneuvers, drawing enemy forces into a trap he had designed with careful calculation. At the critical moment, he activated a massive energy pulse that temporarily disabled enemy communications and propulsion. The loyal Xylan fleet seized the opportunity, striking with precision and overwhelming the disoriented attackers. Eli's pulse of energy caused chaos among the enemy ranks. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and the attacker's command chain collapsed. Lyra's fleet moved in, securing the system and forcing the remaining enemy ships to retreat. Eli leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. Well, that should do it. Lyra's gaze softened as she floated beside him. Human. Extraordinary. Brave. Clever. Changed. Outcome. Many lives. Saved. Eli shook his head, smiling faintly. I just did what humans always do. We survive, adapt, and find a way, even when the odds are impossible. Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing. Yes. Human. Unique. Courage. Heart. Creativity. Can. Save. Worlds. You. Proof. Humans. Valuable. Universe. Eli felt a surge of pride. He had started as a simple mechanic on a dusty starport at the edge of known space. But now, through courage, creativity, and quick thinking, he had helped save entire star systems. Humans, often underestimated, had proven themselves capable of extraordinary feats. Lyra floated closer, her expression warm. Eli Mercer, not just mechanic, human, hero, important, symbol. Many will remember. Inspiration, hope. He laughed softly, shaking his head. Hero. I don't know about that. Just a human. Doing what humans do best. She smiled faintly. Human. Humble. Rare. Special. Important. Never forget. She, bro. She. The battle was over. The enemy retreating. The Xylan fleet secure. And the Empire saved for now. Eli Mercer, human mechanic, had proven that courage, ingenuity, and determination could tip the scales even against the greatest odds. He had survived, adapted, and made a difference. As the ship drifted through the quiet stars, Eli looked out at the galaxy. The adventure had tested him in ways he never imagined, but it had also revealed the power of human creativity and bravery. In a universe filled with advanced technologies and powerful empires, humans like him had the ability to make a difference. Lyra's voice broke the silence. Eli Mercer, you changed history for Xylan Dominion. Humans, underestimated, often, but valuable, more than many realize. Eli smiled, feeling a sense of peace and pride. Maybe humans are exactly what the universe needs sometimes. Small, adaptable, clever, and stubborn enough to survive anything. Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing softly. Yes. Human, essential. Brave, clever. Heart, strong. Universe, better. With humans in it. For the first time, Eli felt the weight of what they had accomplished. They had survived impossible odds, outsmarted a superior enemy, and preserved an entire empire, all with courage, ingenuity, and human determination. Lyra, he said finally, thank you for trusting me. I didn't expect to be part of all this. When I woke up this morning, she floated closer, her expression serious yet kind. Trust, earned, by action, by courage, by human heart. You, Eli Mercer, showed humans matter, universe. Eli felt a warmth in his chest. It wasn't just pride, it was the realization that humans, even from small, dusty corners of space, could rise to challenges no one expected them to face. And in doing so, they could leave marks that shaped the galaxy itself. As the Xylan fleet stabilized the system and prepared for repairs, Eli returned to the cockpit, his hands hovering over the controls. The ship hummed under his touch, alive and responsive, a testament to both alien technology and human ingenuity. He realized that this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to face impossible odds, and he would continue to meet them head-on. Lyra's gaze softened. Eli Mercer. Human. Hero. Clever. Brave. Heart. Unique. Remembered. Many. Worlds. Thanks. Human. Eli chuckled softly. Well, I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because humans don't give up. That's all. She tilted her head, eyes glowing. Yes, humans. Survive, adapt, change, universe. The stars stretched endlessly before them, quiet and still. But Eli knew the galaxy was full of challenges, dangers, and adventures waiting to be faced. And humans, small, clever, and brave, would rise to meet them. For Eli Mercer, the simple mechanic from a dusty starport, the universe had changed forever, and he was ready to embrace it, one challenge at a time. As the alien ship glided through the stars, carrying both the Queen and her human mechanic, Eli looked out at the galaxy, feeling for the first time that ordinary humans could do extraordinary things. The universe was vast, full of unknowns and dangers, but humans, like him, would endure. They would survive, they would adapt, and they would leave their mark on the stars. And somewhere, deep in the galaxy, a queen smiled, knowing she had chosen wisely.